Good morning. Welcome to our Getting Started in ProtoShare webinar. My name is Jamie and I'm a member of our customer support team. And today I will be your host. This is typically about a half hour to a 45-minute long presentation followed by a Q&A session. However, if you have questions over the course of the webinar, please feel free to share them with me using the question section of the GoToMeeting application. You can type a question privately to me right in there, and I'll do my best to answer it over the course of the presentation, or I might pause for a moment and type a response back. We also have a promotion going for any new trial customers. If you attend the webinar and fill out a quick survey at the end, you can earn up to 50% off your subscription costs, up to a savings of $150 over the course of 3 months. So 50% off your first 3 months. For the content of the presentation itself, I like to cover 5 main topics. So we'll discuss how to create designs using items from the palette and the stencil widget library. We'll also talk about how navigation can be automatically set up based on what you set up in your Pages tab with links and on-click features all set up for you. We'll also discuss templates and masters, which are a way to reuse your work. And states are a way to add some interactivity to your designs, and they're also very handy for populating certain components, so we'll cover them as well. And finally, we'll discuss how to share what you create, either using the built-in review mode or the export features. So let's go ahead and hop right in. So here is my ProtoShare account, and I'm going to sign in as an account manager. As an account manager, I have access to all ProtoShare's features. So if you have a different user role than I do, you might not see the same tabs across the upper left, but everyone has access to my active projects. And everything you create in ProtoShare is stored within individual projects. And each trial and subscription type comes with unlimited projects, so feel free to create as many as needed. I'm going to create a new project by clicking the New Project button, and I'm asked to give it a name. I'm going to go ahead and call this, Idea Share. And here is my new project listed along with all my other ones. To open my project, I just click the thumbnail and it opens up in a new tab in my browser. So now I have 2 browser tabs, one with my project and one with my main account section. If I've closed that main account section, I can get back to it just by clicking the ProtoShare logo in the upper left corner. But here I am on my project, and it comes with a few basic items. So I have a Pages tab with 4 pages that were automatically created when I made the project. Each of these pages has its own design down in this Page Designs area. I also have a Library tab with 4 folders, and this is where all of my reusable content will be stored. If I wanted to upload a file like an image or maybe a font file or PDF to share with the team, I can go to the Library Assets folder and then upload directly from here. And finally, I have a Dashboard tab. Here is where I can store or list out basic information about my project. So I could give my project a little description. Let's see. And I can also invite project members, which are other users that I can invite to my ProtoShare account so that they can have access either to view my designs or to work on them with me. So clicking the Add Members button, I have a little invite window where I can type an email address of somebody brand new to ProtoShare. So if I wanted to invite Barbara, I could just type in their email address and hit enter. If I wanted to invite someone who might exist as a member of a different project in my account, I just need to open up my drop-down menu here. And I can select from people I have previously added to other projects. Once I click my Add Members button down here, my new user will be sent an invite where they can set up their password, and my existing users will just receive a notification with a link to the project. Now, if I wanted to start working on my project, I would begin by opening up one of the designs that was automatically made for me. So if I take a look at page 1 here, I have this blank wireframe, and I can open up the wireframe just by double-clicking it. If I want to have more than 2 designs for page 1, I could do that. So I could have different versions of the same page going. I just clicked new, typed in a name, and now I have a second one, and I'm double-clicking that one. So now I have 2 different versions of page 1. This is really handy for parallel prototyping and for responsive designs. So I can create one design that's normal desktop size and maybe one that would fit an iPhone screen. But once I have a design open, I have instructions to draw components, assets, masters, and templates. Components are found in the palette, and this is just a floating window, and we can move it wherever we'd like. But here is where we'll find all the basic building blocks in ProtoShare. I have text components and image components, form fields, radio buttons, regular boxes and lines, navigation components. Further down, state-related components, containers, which are useful for grouping components together, and then advanced content like a live web view or an advanced HTML if I wanted to create my own custom component. And at the very bottom, I have access to the stencil and widget library. And if I click on more here, I'll have a little pop-up come up. And here I can find some pre-built content that is easily dragged and droppable right onto the canvas. So I have basic items, and this includes icons, shapes, and arrows, gestures for mobile designs. Further down, everything is set up via theme. So I have Bootstrap themed, Foundation, Android, iOS 6, iOS 7, Windows Phone, Facebook, and web and desktop. If I find something I like in here, like in the Bootstrap section, I know there's a button that I'm a fan of. So if I find something I like, I just click and drag and drop it onto my design. And now I have this beautiful inverse button. I'd follow the same process for items from my palette. If I find something I like, all I have to do is drag and drop it onto the design. So there's an image component. Let me go ahead and move this out. And maybe I'll have a second one, maybe a third one. Little bit of text, and lastly, a navigation component. Now I'll go ahead and close my palette, and I can open it back up just by clicking the palette button whenever I want. But so far I've placed, 6 components down, and I can see them all listed here on the far right. So I've got my button, my different images, paragraph, and my navigation. Once I have items placed on my canvas, I can move them around and edit them, so I can drag and drop it to place it wherever I'd like. I can also drag the corners of a component, clicking and dragging here to make it larger. And I have an appearance bar across the top where I can change some basic settings. So here I could change the stroke type or the thickness of it, fill color if I wanted, some rounded edges for my component here, I could do that, text color, etc. I'm sort of happy with what I've got right now, so I'll just leave that one as is. And I'm going to make just some basic changes here. So there's my larger image, here's my text, and I'm going to increase the text size using my appearance bar at the top. I would actually like this one to be a little longer. And then, that'll work. And that'll work. I'm going to include just a few more components to help finish out my design here. Let's see, another image here. And maybe I'll have some sort of form control on this one. All Alright, so now I have just a bunch of components on my design. I have some options available to me when working on the canvas here. So I can do things like copy and paste components using my keyboard shortcuts. So I can hit Control-C, Control-V to paste another version of this. Make that one just a little bit longer. I can also align components. So if I wanted maybe these larger images to all be lined up, I would select my components by shift-clicking, and then I have an align menu here at the top that I can use. Oh, let's go with align left edges. Same thing, I can align these three. Instead of using my alignment menu, now I'm going to right-click. My right-click menu is very similar to the menu across the top here. So I would just find my alignment options and say align right edges. And then maybe move everything together. Hereabouts is where it looks good to me. And then same for these guys, I'll just align their left edges so I don't have to count pixels or anything. Copy and pasting my button. Now to edit text, all I need to do is double click to inline edit. So if I don't want this to say inverse anymore, I can double click on it and have it read IdeaShare, which was the name of the website I wanted to create. And then same for this one down here. I can have this one read sign up free. Not too bad so far. Just to add a little bit of some polish to my design, I am going to set up my pages tree so that my navigation component can automatically reflect what I have set up there. So as you can see right now, it has page 1, 2, and 3 listed, and we have page 1, 2, and 3 listed on the Pages tab. I can edit these pages, so I can right-click and rename a page. I can also click the new subpage, new sibling page buttons, and I'm going to just fill this out as I would like it to reflect the architecture of the website I'm going to build. So instead of page 1, this will be features, and I'm going to click the new page button, have a pricing page, and a sign up page, maybe actually I think those three might work out well. I'll just go with that. I do need another page one. And my pages tree uses an interactive tree view, so I can drag and drop my pages around as needed. I'm going to go ahead and give features a couple sub-pages because my tool will be feature rich. And I'm going to rename this to be sign in instead of sign up. Right, I'm happy with that. Now, if I take a look at my navigation, it's already updated to reflect my changes. If I wanted to see my drop-down pages, the page 1, 2, and 3, I can go into test mode, which allows me to interact with my design. And when I hover over features, I have this drop-down pop up for me automatically. Now let's say I want to change more than just the basic appearance of my components here. I have an inspector window, and this is just another floating window like the palette, but here is where I'll find kind of like the properties for each of my components. Right now I'm selected on my navigation component, so I have navigation related settings at the top. I can choose what pages I want to include, or I could make it custom. I could choose just sibling pages of features if that's what I wanted. And then further down, I have visibility settings. So whether something is visible or not is very useful for pop-ups. Sometimes you see the pop-up, sometimes you don't. And then I have on-click or on-hover settings. Again, really useful for interactions. Like if I wanted to click to activate a pop-up, I could set that up with a state. Or if I wanted to manually create my links on a component instead of using the navigation built in for this one, I can create my own link. Further down, I have appearance settings, and that is separated into stroke. So I have style, width, color, and then fill, and I can choose a fill color from the palette, or I can type in my own color code. I can also choose a background image to use instead, or upload a new one by clicking the little magnifying glass here. And this gives me that bird's eye view into my earlier library tab. Further down, box settings, so opacity, rotation. I can spin this around if I wanted to. It's an interesting navigation. Further down, text, color, font type, just opening up the drop-down menus here to see our options. And then alignment and padding, position and size, spec details. I can also leave notes on my components, and then I have CSS down here at the bottom. Now, as I click between each of my components, their properties will be listed in the inspector. So once I've clicked on my button here, I can see that this is a button. And when I click on, say, my image, at the top I have image-related settings. So I can choose what image to use there, if any. And then all the rest are the same. So that same visibility, actions, and then appearance, position, and size. I'm going to make a couple final adjustments here and probably call this guy good. Whoops. That's not what I wanted to do. I want to increase the text on this one and on my navigation. And then I want to line these two up. And so far, so good. Let's go ahead and maybe make this guy a little bit longer. Okay, so if I'm happy with my design so far, it might be a nice opportunity to share what I've created. Using my share menu in the upper right-hand corner, I have options to open this in review, which is the built-in feedback tool. I can also get the URL to this specific design or get a screenshot of it. I'm going to open my design in review. Now, review is sort of like test mode in that I can naturally interact with my components. So here, when I hover over features, I can see the drop down, and when I click on my form fields, I can type in them. But the main point of review is this topics panel on the left and the add topics button at the top. So once I click add topics, anywhere I click down on my design, I'll have a little red topic pin, and then I can leave a note on it or ask a question or look for feedback, that kind of thing. So I'm going to just call this new topic. And of the people I listed as project members earlier, I can mark any or all of them as subscribers to my topic. And when they log in to review mode, they'll see this topic listed here in their topics panel. And when they click on it, it will take them to that specific design, and it will also highlight that specific topic pin. I'm going to go ahead and create just a couple more. Topic number 2. And now here you can see me clicking between the two topics, and ideally your reviewers would log in, select the topic, read about it, and then they can leave their own comments down here. If I'm the owner of a topic, when I hover over a specific comment, I could mark that one as a decision. And that way, right at a glance, I can see what topics we're still talking about, which ones have been decided upon, and then I can also mark certain topics as resolved, and it will get that little R badge as well. Really simple and really handy for keeping my project moving forward. So I've shared my design. Maybe I got a little feedback that I should increase the fidelity, or maybe I should use some of the same content on the other pages in my project. I can go back to editing mode just by finding my original browser tab, or if I've closed it, I can click the edit button from review right here in the upper right, and it will open up my design in editing mode once again. Now back here, I'm going to go ahead and just create a template out of what I have so far so that I can easily reuse this content on my other pages. To create a template, I want to select the components I want. So I've got these two and maybe the background images. These guys will make up my template. Once I select the components I want, I can open my Edit menu and choose Convert to Template. I can also right-click and see a very similar menu, and here is Convert to Template. Either way, once I choose that, I am asked to give it a name. I'm going to call this Lo-Fi Header and Background, and hit Save. Now my template will open up in its own design, and that is so that I can make changes to my template, because any change I make to my template will be reflected on any pages that use it. And my template will also be automatically saved into my library's template folder. So if I go to my library tab, click the folder, I can see my template listed here. And if I take a look back at Features page, I can see that some of my components are now missing because they're part of the template. And if I click on the little gear icon here, I can see what template my design is currently using. Now let's say I want to apply my new template to the pricing and sign-in pages. I'm going to open up these pages, and then all I have to do is drag and drop my template from my library onto the canvas itself. So in my library, dragging and dropping. Now I would do the same thing if I had uploaded images into my assets folder. I can just drag and drop from the folder onto the design. Really simple and easy. One thing that I'd like to point out too is that my navigation is smart. It knows what page I'm currently on. So here we can see we're looking at the pricing page, and my navigation is bold for the specific page. And looking at sign-in, same thing. And if I were to hop into run mode here at the top, a new window will pop open. And here I can do a little bit more interaction than I can in test mode. In test mode, of course, I can hover and I can click and type, etc. I can interact with my design, but following links requires me to be in run mode. So once in run, I can go to my pricing page and I can see that everything is kind of bland, and I can go to my sign-in page or back to features. Go ahead and close run for now. Let's see. Another thing I can do that's pretty similar to creating a template is creating a master. Let me go ahead and let's edit this just a bit. Start your 30-day free trial. Make that a little bit longer. Okay, so let's say I want to make a master, which is sort of like a mini template out of these components. I have these selected here, and I'll follow the same process. Right-click, convert to master instead, and I'm going to call this Lo-Fi Sign-Up Form. Just like a template, my master is going to open up in its own design, and it's also going to automatically be saved into my library for me. And just like a template, any changes I make to my master are reflected on any pages that use it. But what makes the master a little bit different than a template is that it's more flexible. So if I go to my pricing page and drag out my master, you can see that it comes with a little anchor. And this allows me to place it wherever I want. So a master can act as sort of like a master component or just small reusable content that you want to use between pages. You'll notice that my template was fixed in position. So this idea share button, it was exactly at 50 and 25 on the original template, and that's where it's going to stay. Whereas on my master, I can just drag it around and place it wherever I'd like. I can also import templates between projects. So if I have a colleague working on another project and they've created some content for me, I can just import them as needed. And I would do that from my folder menu and then import. Here, I can choose a project that I'm a member of, go with informatics, and then I get a little bird's eye view into that project's library. So I can go to the templates folder and find a template I want to use. I just drag and drop it into my own, and I can do the same for a master. I'm going to drag and drop that into my masters folder. And for now, I'm going to go ahead and close some of these extra designs and open up the second version of my features page. So here was that original second version that we made that didn't have any content on it. I'm going to go ahead and cheat a little bit just by using a template from that other project that has some content. and this will act as my medium-fi version. So here is my lo-fi, here is my medium-fi. Because I've made changes, I could hop back into review mode and leave a topic on this one. And if my reviewers were to click between my topics, they could go from the original to this one. So I can almost set up a guided review if I strategically place my topics down and make sure that my reviewers are seeing all the designs that I want them to see. Right, so back to editing this design. I like it so far. It does have some interactivity, so I've got my page drop down. I have my typing and then my hidden typing, which is pretty handy for passwords. But I want to add a pop-up. To do that, I'm going to set up my components for my two different views. I'm going to have a view for when I can see my pop-up, and then I'm going to have a view for when I can't see my pop-up, and they're just kind of going to be layered on top of each other. Next up, I'm going to create a state, which is just a purpose-built item in ProtoShare that manages different interactions for me. And then I'll just toggle everything up to work as a pop-up. I'm going to do this on the template itself. So template, ProtoShare version 2. So here's my template, and I'm going to go ahead and set up the components I want for when I'm able to see my pop-up. This is the view for when I can't see it. And for when I can see my pop-up, I want a dark mask to kind of blur everything behind. And I want a little sign-up form. And lastly, I want a little icon from my stencil widget library that will act as like my little close window. There we go. I'll just use this X here. Place that there. Okay, so here is my view when you can see the pop-up. All I need to do now is create a state. I can do that from the inspector window. So if I open the inspector for my dark mask, my master, and my little X icon, and go to visible only when, here I can create a new state. I'm going to go ahead and say new, and I'm going to call this pop-up. I have two values, which is perfect because I have two views. So I'm going to have one view one state value for when I can't see it and one for when I can. So off and on work great for me right now. And I'm going to say, remember this was visible only when, so I'm going to say that these three components are visible only when pop-up is set to on. And hit save. Next up, I need to wire it up so that I have something triggering that state value change. So in the inspector for my sign up button, I'm going to say on click, a state value should be changing. So on click, pop-up is going to change to on. Now I can see my interaction by hopping into test mode and clicking on my sign up button. And here I can see my pop-up. I can also see my interaction by clicking and unclicking the little eye icons from my component outline. And these icons denote that these components have a visibility setting. And so if I click on that, I can see what changes when they become visible or not. I also have a states tab here where I could have created my original state, and I can also toggle the two different values for my state. So this is what it looks like when pop-up is set to off. This is what it looks like when pop-up is set to on. The last thing I want to do to complete my little pop-up circle is set it up so that if somebody clicks on the X, it goes back to being hidden. So I'm going to say on click, pop-up goes back to off. And if I hop into test mode real quick here, I can click on my X and it goes away. So from the beginning, I have my on click for my sign up button, which changes my state value, and my components are only visible when that state value is changed. And then I can click X again, which changes my state value back to normal, and my components are hidden. Another thing that's kind of handy about review mode is if I were to open up my features page in review, I can leave topics on a specific state value setting. So I can click my sign up here and then add a topic. Web interaction is here. And when my reviewers click through their topics, they can see the medium-fi version, and then they can click on my topic to see that interaction without ever having to know that there's something, set up with the sign up button. Of course, I could leave a topic right next to the sign up button that says, hey, click me. So either way works, but this way I can ensure that my reviewers see all the different things I have set up on my design. Now, I have hopped in and out of review mode quite a few times, so I do want to cover the other way to share what you create. So back in edit mode, I can export designs on a page-by-page basis. So I can select maybe all of my pages and choose to export by opening up my right-click menu or my page menu. Here's export. Or I can export just individual pages. I'll export here. For now, I'm going to go ahead and just export my features page. And I'm asked to give it a name. I'm going to call this medium-fi features page. And then I have two options. I can create an HTML archive or a spec doc. If I choose HTML archive, I'm given a zip folder with all the HTML code that's behind my design. And I can hand this code off to developers to have them implement it or make changes to it as needed. Also, if I choose HTML archive, I have a sub option here called Publish to Web. And this is really handy for sharing my design with someone who isn't a ProtoShare user, because it will give me a link that I can send to just anybody I'd like. If I create a spec doc, I can choose to have it go directly into Word format or PDF. And I can choose whether to include information on my pages tree or screenshots of all of my designs. I can also choose to include a paper trail from review. So if I have been making changes based off of my clients' feedback and requests, I can make sure that I have that all listed out here for future reference. But once I choose my options, I'll go ahead and create both and click the export option. My export will begin. It's going to take a moment as it's creating screenshots. But when it's done, it's going to show me my export history menu. I've only ever created this one export, so it won't be very fancy. So here we have our doc that we can download, our HTML zip folder that we can select and then download, and then we have the browse link here on the right. And if I click that, it will take me to a landing page, and if I can click my page from here, this is the link that I would send if I wanted somebody outside of ProtoShare to take a look at my design. I'm going to go ahead and post this into the chat window of the GoToMeeting session if you want to take a look here. But there we have it, and you can interact with this design just like you can in test and run. So when I hover over features, I can see my little drop down. When I click in my field, I can type. I can also see that pop-up we just made. Not half bad. All right, so let's take a look here. Exit out of that. So I started my design kind of lightweight, lo-fi. I checked in with my reviewers, I made changes, and then I either exported my design to hand off to my developers, or I'm just maybe still in the process of the feedback and revision system. But this was basically the life cycle that my project went through, and I can see it all in one place. I don't think I did half bad here. Right, so let's go ahead and check in with our meeting notes. Make sure we're on the right course here. Ideally, this is what we would have covered. So we did talk about how to create designs out of items from the palette and the stencil widget library. Just remember you can drag and drop them. And then once they're on the canvas, you can rearrange them or resize them, use the appearance bar and the inspector to edit them. We also talked about live navigation and how the pages I set up on my pages tree on my left can be automatically reflected as links in my navigation components. We talked a little bit about templates and masters. The important thing to remember is that templates are fixed in position, so they are really handy for header content or background content, whereas masters are more flexible in their location on individual designs. So they are useful for footer content that might change between pages, or just random content that you want in different places on your design, or as a master component. If you find yourself always using, an image component with this size and this type of stroke and background color, you can just save that as a master and save yourself a little bit of time. We did cover states a little bit, and for the most part, we created a pop-up. And you can access the states menu just by clicking the little lightning bolt on the right-hand side of the component outline. We also have additional videos on states available on the support page of the website. And there you can learn how to create mega menus with states or have a slower pop-up tutorial. And let's see, the last thing we covered was how to share. So we did talk a little bit about review mode and how you can create topics and add subscribers and mark topics as having decisions made or not. And we also talked about export, which is really handy for kind of the end game project work and then maybe sharing your design with somebody outside of ProtoShare. Now, I haven't had any questions so far, so hopefully that means I've been fairly thorough. But if you've been holding back, please feel free to share any questions you have with me using the questions section of the GoToMeeting application. Right in there, you can type just a private question to me, and I'd be happy to hop back into ProtoShare and maybe cover a topic I didn't cover or go further in depth in something I did. Either way, please feel free to make use of this time. I am happy to help. And while I wait for any questions, let's talk about where we can find some additional help. So our website is a really valuable resource. We have video tutorials that cover pretty much anything you could want, so you can learn everything you need to know about project management or managing people and users or making navigation changes, all of those. We also have a pretty useful forum that has a ton of advanced tips and tricks too. We have a user guide which has full documentation, so you could read everything you ever wanted to know about how states work or topics in review mode right in the user guide. Additionally, we have our live chat, and that is available Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. Pacific time until 5 p.m. Pacific time. And we are happy to help with workflow questions or what does this component do questions or billing questions. Whatever you run into, we are happy to help and look forward to talking to you in chat. If you do run into something outside of business hours, you can always send a support ticket in using the Contact Us form on the website, and that will just create a ticket in our system, and we'll follow up with you, 6 a.m. the next morning or Monday morning as soon as possible. And it doesn't look like I have any questions so far, so one last thing I did want to talk about was that promotion. So you've already done the hard part by attending the webinar, and I do encourage you to fill out the survey that should come up once we close this out. And after doing so, you can earn 50% off for your first 3 months, up to a savings of $150. If you do go ahead and fill out the survey, we'll parse the results here shortly within the next few days and email everyone who earned the discount, letting them know that it has been placed on their account. So please feel free to take advantage of this offer. And I guess that should do it for now. If you do run into anything, please feel free to hop into chat. We'll be there for a good more 5 hours today. And thank you for joining me, and happy prototyping.